The breath of the crowd pressed against me like a storm, though silence reigned. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, louder than the crackle of torchlight that lined the frost-bitten courtyard. Shadows stretched long across the stone, and every eye, hungry, watchful, fixed upon the trembling line of maidens. I felt the weight of their gaze, the inevitability of what was to come, and dread coiled tight in my chest. The night was cold, but sweat slid down my spine. The mating ceremony was meant to bind bloodlines, to seal alliances with flesh and vow. Yet, to me, it was a cage. I had seen what happened to those chosen by cruel hands. Their spirits broken, their bodies claimed, their names forgotten. My breath caught as Lord Vaeric's gaze lingered on me, his lips curling in a smile that promised ruin. He was known for breaking what he owned. My knees weakened beneath the heavy furs draped over my shoulders, and I prayed the gods would let his eyes pass over me. But they did not. His boots scraped against the stone as he stepped forward, the sound sharp as a blade. The torchlight glinted off his rings, each one a trophy of conquest. My throat tightened. I was cornered, hemmed in by the circle of nobles and wolves, their shadows stretching like bars of a prison. I was Alara Vorin, overlooked, underestimated, gentle enough to be prey. And tonight, I was about to be claimed. My breath faltered. Panic surged. I could not let him take me. My body moved before thought could catch it. I turned, desperate, and my eyes found a figure, cloaked in black, at the edge of the circle. He stood apart, silent, unmoving, as though carved from the night itself. His hood shadowed his face, but I felt the weight of his presence, like a hand against my skin. Intense, dangerous, inevitable. I stumbled toward him, every step a rebellion against the fate tightening around my throat. Lord Vaeric's voice rang out, sharp with triumph. "She is mine." "No," I whispered, though the word was swallowed by the cold air. My pulse hammered, my hands trembled, and then, before I could think, before fear could drag me back, I reached for the cloaked stranger. My fingers brushed the rough fabric of his cloak, and I rose on shaking toes. The world narrowed to the silence between us, the firelight flickering against his hidden jaw. My lips pressed to his. It was not a kiss of love, nor of desire. It was survival, a desperate act to escape the cruelty that hunted me. Yet the moment my mouth touched his, the air split. A surge of heat tore through the cold night, burning against my skin. The stone beneath our feet shuddered. Ancient runes carved into the courtyard walls flared with light, their lines glowing like molten fire. Gasps rippled through the crowd, sharp and disbelieving. Wolves howled, their voices rising in a chorus that shook the heavens. I staggered back, breathless, my lips tingling, with the echo of something vast and forbidden. My eyes widened as the stranger's hand closed around my wrist, firm, possessive, protective. His grip was not cruel, but it bound me as surely as iron. "What have you done?" Lord Vaeric snarled, his voice breaking against the roar of the wolves. I could not answer. My chest heaved, my heart racing, and all I could feel was the stranger's presence. The way the air bent around him, the way silence bowed to his command. He did not speak, but his hood tilted, and I felt his gaze pierce me through the shadow. The runes blazed brighter, casting the courtyard in a light that was not fire, but something older, something sacred. The nobles recoiled, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. The wolves pressed low to the ground, their bodies trembling, their howls fading into whimpers. I had awakened something, The stranger's breath brushed my cheek, steady where mine faltered. His silence was heavier than words, his nearness more dangerous than any blade. My pulse stuttered, torn between terror and a strange aching pull. Mine, Lord Varick spat, though his voice shook now, stripped of certainty. The stranger's hand tightened on my wrist. He did not look at Varick. He did not need to. The air itself seemed to answer him, the runes pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Or was it mine? I swallowed hard, my throat raw, my body trembling. I had kissed him to escape, but in that moment, I knew I had bound myself to something far greater, far more perilous. The crowd pressed back, whispers rising like wind through the pines. The runes, the bond, it cannot be. She has chosen. I had not chosen. I had leapt into the dark, and the dark had answered. The stranger lifted his head, the hood shifting as the torchlight caught the edge of his jaw. My breath caught, my body frozen, as the world seemed to hold itself still. When his hood fell back, I realized exactly what I had done. The palace swallowed me whole. Its gates loomed like iron jaws, and the torchlight along the walls flickered against carved wolves that seemed to watch me with living eyes. My breath misted in the cold, each step echoing against stone, polished by centuries of power. I was half dragged, half led, my wrists still bound in the grip of the cloaked man. The crowd had parted for him as though the night itself had commanded it. I did not speak. My throat was raw, my mind a storm of disbelief. The kiss still burned against my lips, though I wished to scrub it away, to undo what had been done. The runes had flared, the wolves had howled, and now I was being carried into the heart of the kingdom's power. The doors of the great hall opened, and silence fell like a blade. Nobles bowed low, their faces pale, their eyes darting between me and the man at my side. He released my wrist only when we crossed the threshold, and the absence of his touch felt like a wound. "Alpha King," someone whispered, the words trembling through the chamber. My knees nearly buckled. The hood was gone now, cast aside, and I saw him fully. Aldrich Thorn, the feared ruler of the Frosted Kingdom. His presence was a storm contained within flesh. Broad shoulders wrapped in black furs, eyes like winter steel, jaw carved with restraint. He was the man mothers warned their daughters of, the king whose silence was more terrifying than any roar. And I had kissed him. Humiliation burned hot beneath my skin. I was no noble daughter, no warrior's prize. I was Ilara Vorin, overlooked, fragile, a shadow among brighter stars. Yet here I stood, bound to the most dangerous man alive. He did not look at me as the chamber emptied, as servants scurried to obey unspoken commands. His silence was a wall I could not breach. I followed because I had no choice, my steps echoing behind his as he led me through winding corridors lit by cold lanterns. At last, we entered his chambers. The doors shut with a heavy thud, sealing me inside. The room was vast, its walls lined with tapestries of wolves and battles, its hearth burning low with embers that cast long shadows. A bed carved from dark wood stood against the far wall, draped in furs. My breath caught at the sight, shame twisting in my chest. "You will remain here," Aldrich said, his voice deep, controlled, as though each word was weighed before release. I turned to him, confusion clawing at me. Why? His gaze flicked to mine, sharp as a blade, then away. "Because the bond has been awakened. Until it is understood, you cannot leave." The bond, the runes, my kiss. My stomach churned. I did not choose this, I whispered, though the words felt feeble in the vastness of the chamber. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He moved past me, his cloak brushing the air near my arm. The nearness of him stole my breath, though he did not touch me. He was careful, deliberate, as though proximity itself was dangerous. I stood frozen, the firelight painting my skin in trembling gold. My humiliation deepened with every heartbeat. I was trapped in his chambers, untouched yet claimed, a prisoner of my own desperate act. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. I dared a glance at him. He stood near the hearth, his profile carved in shadow, his eyes fixed on the flames. His stillness was unnatural, like a predator holding itself back. My hands trembled. I wanted to speak, to demand answers, but the words tangled in my throat. Instead, I moved toward the bed, my steps hesitant. My fingers brushed the carved wood of its frame, and the sound of my touch seemed to echo too loudly. He turned then. His gaze met mine, and the air thickened. For a heartbeat, we were caught, his eyes piercing, mine wide with fear, and something I could not name. The distance between us felt fragile, dangerous. I shifted, and my hand brushed against his as I passed. The contact was fleeting, accidental, but it jolted through me like lightning. His breath caught, sharp and audible, and I froze. The silence that followed was unbearable. My chest rose and fell too quickly, my pulse wild. His eyes darkened, and for the first time, I saw something beneath the steel. Something restrained, something dangerous. "Do not," he said, his voice low, tense, as though he spoke to himself as much as to me. "Do not tempt what cannot be controlled." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. His words were not a threat, but a warning. He was holding himself back, guarding something I could not yet understand. The fire crackled, the shadows deepened, and I felt the weight of the bond pressing against my skin, invisible yet unyielding. I was bound to him, though untouched. I turned away, my cheeks burning, my body trembling with confusion and shame. I wanted to escape, yet the door was locked, the chamber vast, and his presence filled every breath I took. The night stretched long, each moment heavy with silence and awareness. I lay upon the bed, though sleep would not come. His figure remained near the hearth, unmoving, watching the flames, as though they alone could hold him steady. My heart ached with dread, with longing I did not understand, with the humiliation of being seen, bound, and powerless. At last, his voice broke the silence, deep and quiet, carrying the weight of something unspoken. "You should never have touched me." Days bled into weeks, each one colder than the last. The palace was a fortress of silence, its walls carved from stone that seemed to drink warmth from the air. I lived within Aldrich Thorn's chambers, untouched, unspoken to, watched only by the shadows that clung to him. He was a presence more than a man, always near, never close. His silence pressed against me like frost, and though I longed for words, none came. The court whispered. I heard them in the corridors, their voices sharp as knives. The bond was a mistake. She is unworthy. The king will cast her aside. Their jealousy was a living thing, curling around me like smoke. Noble daughters eyed me with disdain, their gazes heavy with envy and suspicion. I was no rival to their beauty, no match for their lineage, yet I had kissed the Alpha King and awakened the runes. That alone made me dangerous. I kept my head bowed, my steps quiet, but the whispers followed. Servants paused when I passed, nobles sneered. and wolves prowled the edges of the hall with restless eyes. I was bound, yet unwanted. Aldrich remained distant. He spoke only when necessary, his words clipped, his tone controlled. He moved through the palace like a shadow, his presence commanding silence wherever he went. I watched him from the corner of my eye, studying the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands curled into fists when the court pressed too close. He was a storm contained, and I was the fragile thing tethered to it. It was during a feast that the silence cracked. The hall was heavy with firelight and the scent of roasted meat. Nobles gathered in clusters of laughter and wine. I sat at the edge of the long table, my goblet untouched, my gaze fixed on the flicker of torches. Lord Varick approached. His smile was sharp, his eyes gleaming with malice. He leaned close, his breath hot against my ear. "The king cannot keep you forever," he murmured. "You will tire of his silence. When you do, remember who truly desires you." My stomach twisted. I pulled back, but his hand brushed mine, deliberate, claiming. The hall seemed to tilt, the whispers rising like wind. Before I could speak, before I could recoil, Aldrich's presence filled the space. He stood behind me, silent, but the air shifted, heavy with danger. His gaze fixed on Varick, and the noble's smile faltered. "Step away," Aldrich said, his voice low, controlled, yet edged with something primal. Varick chuckled, though his eyes flickered with unease. "She is not yours, Alpha. Not yet." The words struck like a blade. My chest tightened, shame burning through me. I was bound, yet the court questioned it, doubted it, whispered of my weakness. Aldrich's jaw clenched, his eyes narrowing. For a heartbeat, I saw it, the wolf beneath the man, the instinct that clawed against his restraint. His hand brushed the back of my chair, close enough that I felt the heat of him, though he did not touch me. "She is mine," he said, the words sharp, final. The hall fell silent. My breath caught. His claim was not tender, not gentle. It was possession, raw and undeniable. Yet beneath it, I felt something else, something restrained, something he fought to keep hidden. Later, when the feast ended and the hall emptied, I found him near the hearth, his gaze fixed on the flames. I stood at the edge of the chamber, my hands trembling, my voice breaking the silence for the first time. "Why do you push me away?" I asked. The words fragile, yet defiant. His eyes flicked to mine, cold and unreadable. "Because closeness is dangerous." I swallowed hard, my chest aching. Dangerous for whom? His silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. At last he spoke, his voice low, strained. "For you." The words cut deeper than any blade. I stepped closer, my breath quickening, my heart pounding. "You cannot protect me by silence. You cannot guard me by distance. The court will tear me apart if you do nothing." His jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists. "You do not understand what you have awakened." "Then tell me," I whispered, my voice trembling with desperation. "Tell me what binds us. Tell me why you fear to touch me." His gaze locked on mine, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in his silence, the longing buried beneath control, the storm he fought to contain. His breath caught, sharp, and the air between us thickened. "You should not challenge me," he said, his voice rough, dangerous. "And yet I do," I replied, my chin lifting, though my knees trembled. The silence broke again, not with words, but with sound. A noble had lingered in the hall, emboldened by whispers, his gaze fixed on me with hunger. He stepped forward, his hand reaching as though to claim. The moment his growl echoed through the hall, everyone understood she was not unclaimed. The Hall of Judgment was carved from black stone, its walls etched with runes that glowed faintly in the torchlight. The air was heavy with incense and the musk of wolves, a mingling of power and threat that pressed against my skin. I walked beside Aldrich, though not close enough to touch. His silence was a mantle, his presence a storm contained, and every step echoed with inevitability. The nobles gathered in a crescent, their furs draped like armor, their eyes sharp with suspicion. They bowed as Aldrich entered, but their gazes slid to me, cold and measuring. I felt their disdain like claws at my throat. I was the outsider, the fragile bondmate who had stumbled into power she did not deserve. Aldrich ascended the dais, his cloak trailing like shadow. He did not sit upon the throne immediately. Instead, he stood, his gaze sweeping the court, his silence commanding obedience. The wolves at the edges of the hall lowered their heads, their bodies trembling with instinct. Then it happened. The air shifted, thickened, and the runes along the walls flared brighter. A shadow rippled from Aldrich's form, vast and primal. His wolf was not flesh, but essence, a presence that filled the chamber. It loomed behind him, a beast of smoke and silver eyes, its breath a low growl that vibrated through the stone. My heart stuttered, my breath caught. I had heard whispers of the Alpha King's wolf, but seeing it was something else entirely. It was not separate from him, it was him. The storm beneath his silence, the predator bound within his skin. My knees weakened, yet I could not look away. The bond between us pulsed, invisible, yet undeniable, and I felt it tug at my chest, at my very soul. Aldrich's gaze flicked to me then, brief but piercing. For a heartbeat, the wolf shadow's eyes mirrored his, and I felt the weight of both upon me. My breath faltered, my body trembling with something I could not name. Fear, longing, recognition. The council began. Voices rose, sharp with politics and jealousy. Nobles argued over territory, over alliances, over the bond that had been awakened. "She is unworthy," one spat. "The runes chose wrongly." Another sneered, "The king weakens himself by keeping her." I kept my head bowed, shame burning through me. Yet beneath it, something stirred, an ache, a defiance. The bond pulsed again, steady, unyielding, as though reminding me I was not alone. Aldrich spoke little, his words clipped, his tone final. When he did, silence followed. His wolf shadow growled low, silencing dissent with primal authority. Yet I felt his restraint, the way he held himself back, the way his gaze lingered on me when the court pressed too close. Then, amidst the tension, a sound broke the chamber, a whimper, small, fragile. The nobles turned, their voices faltering. From the shadows at the edge of the hall, a child stumbled forward. His clothes were torn, his hair matted, his eyes wide with fear. He was no noble's son, no court ward. He was abandoned, forgotten. Yet his scent carried the unmistakable mark of wolf-shifter blood. My breath caught. He should not have been here. The child's gaze swept the hall, trembling beneath the weight of so many eyes. Then, suddenly, his eyes locked on mine. Before I could move, he ran. His small hands clutched at my skirts, his body pressing against me with desperate need. I froze, shock coursing through me. His fingers tangled in the fabric, his face buried against my side. "Rin," someone whispered, recognition flickering through the crowd. "The orphan." Confusion twisted through me. Why me? Why cling to me? My hands hovered, uncertain, yet instinct pulled stronger. Slowly, Hesitantly, I lowered them, resting against his trembling shoulders. His body was thin, fragile, but his grip was fierce, unyielding. Protectiveness surged, raw and unexpected. My heart ached at the feel of him, at the desperation in his touch. He was a child abandoned, yet he clung to me as though I were the only anchor in the storm. The court murmured, whispers rising like wind. Why her? The bond. It cannot be. Aldrich's gaze fixed on us, sharp and unreadable. His wolf shadow stirred, its growl low, its eyes gleaming with something I could not decipher. Possession? Warning? Recognition? I swallowed hard, confusion burning through me. The bond pulsed again, stronger now, as though it reached not only for Aldrich, but for the child pressed against me. My chest tightened, my breath faltered. I looked down at him, at the way his small hands clung, at the way his body trembled. His eyes lifted, wide and wet, meeting mine with a gaze that pierced deeper than any noble's sneer. The hall held its breath. The child whimpered one word. Mama. The council chamber was colder than the northern winds. Torches sputtered against the stone walls, their flames bending as though cowed by the weight of judgment. I stood in the center, the child clinging to my skirts, his small fingers tangled in the fabric, his body trembling against mine. His eyes were wide, his breath shallow, and every heartbeat of his pressed into me like a plea. The nobles circled, their voices sharp, their furs heavy with authority. The orphan must be removed, one declared, his tone dripping with disdain. He is a stain upon the bond. Another sneered, better yet, end him. Wolves without lineage are dangerous. He will grow wild, unclaimed. My chest tightened, my breath faltered. The words struck like blades, each one cutting deeper. They spoke of death, as though it were nothing, as though this fragile child was no more than a burden to be cast aside. I bent low, my hand resting against Rin's thin shoulder. His body flinched at their voices, his face pressed harder against me. My heart ached, protective instinct rising fierce and unyielding. No, I whispered, though the word trembled, you will not touch him. The chamber erupted. Laughter, scoffs, sharp words. She defies the court. She forgets her place. The king's silence has made her bold. I lifted my chin, though my knees shook. He is a child, I said, louder now, my voice breaking against the stone. He is innocent. If you would kill him, you will kill me first. Gasps rippled through the hall. The nobles leaned forward, their eyes gleaming with malice. She threatens the council. She binds herself to astray. She dishonors the bond. I turned, desperate, my gaze seeking Aldrich. He stood upon the dais, his figure carved in shadow, his wolf shadow looming behind him. His eyes were unreadable, his jaw tight, his silence unbroken. He did not move. He did not speak. My chest cracked with betrayal. I had clung to the bond, to the faint pulse that tied me to him, believing it would protect me. Yet now, when the court demanded blood, he stood apart, distant, cold. Tears burned at the edges of my eyes, but I did not let them fall. I wrapped my arms around Rin, pulling him close, shielding him with my body. My voice shook, but it did not falter. You will not take him from me. The High Chancellor stepped forward, his robes heavy with authority. His gaze was sharp, his tone final. Then you are no longer welcome within these walls. You defy the court. You defy the law. You are exiled. The word struck like thunder. Exiled, cast out, alone. My breath caught, my body trembling. I looked again to Aldrich, desperate, pleading. His eyes met mine for a heartbeat, steel and storm, but he did not speak. He did not stop them. His silence was a blade sharper than any decree. The guards moved forward, their hands heavy on my arms. I clutched Rin tighter, my voice breaking. Do not take him. Do not take me from him. The Chancellor's voice rang out, cold and final. You may keep the stray. He will die with you in exile. The chamber roared with approval, the nobles' laughter echoing against the stone. My heart shattered, my body trembling with fear and defiance. I was cast out, abandoned, betrayed, yet I would not let them see me break. I lifted my chin, though tears burned hot against my cheeks. Then I will go, I said, my voice raw. But I will not leave him. He was mine now, as much as the bond is yours. The guards dragged me through the corridors, the torches flickering against the walls. My feet stumbled, my arms wrapped tight around Rin. His small body pressed against mine. His whimpers tore at my chest, each one a wound. The palace gates loomed, iron and stone, their shadows stretching long across the frozen ground. The doors opened, and the cold night rushed in, biting against my skin. I stepped into exile, the weight of betrayal heavy upon me, the bond pulsing faintly, painfully, as though reminding me of what I had lost. The gates closed behind me with a thunderous echo. I stood in the snow, the child clinging to me, the world vast and merciless. My heart ached, my body trembled, but I held him close, my arms a shield against the storm. Loneliness pressed against me, sharp and suffocating. I had been cast out, abandoned by the man whose silence had bound me, betrayed by the court that demanded blood. Yet within the breaking, something fierce rose. I would not let them take him. I would not let him die. The night stretched wide, the stars cold and distant. My breath misted in the air, my tears freezing against my cheeks. I pressed my lips to Rin's hair, whispering a vow only he could hear. I will protect you. Whatever comes, I will not let them break you. The snow crunched beneath my feet as I stepped into the darkness, exile heavy upon me, fear clawing at my chest. Yet defiance burned, a fragile flame against the cold. And then, from the depths of the night, the silence shattered. The night split open with a single, furious wolf howl. The forest swallowed us whole. Snow fell in heavy silence, blanketing the earth in white, muffling every sound but the crunch of my boots and the child's uneven breaths. Rin clung to me, his small arms tight around my neck, his face buried against my shoulder. My lungs burned with cold, each breath sharp as glass. But I did not stop. Exile had cast me into the wild, and now I fled deeper, away from the palace, away from the court that had demanded his death. Yet I could not flee him. The bond pulsed, invisible yet unyielding, tugging at my chest with every step. I felt him in the shadows, in the silence between the trees. Aldrich Thorn, the Alpha King. He was hunting me. The wind shifted, carrying his scent, smoke, steel, winter. My heart stuttered, my knees weakened, but I pressed on. Branches clawed at my furs, snow stung my cheeks, and still I ran. Yet the forest was his domain, not mine. Every howl in the distance reminded me. Wolves obeyed him, shadows bent to him, and I was bound to him. Rin whimpered softly, his voice breaking against the cold. Mama. I tightened my grip, my chest aching. Hold on, I whispered, though my voice trembled. I will not let them take you. But the forest betrayed me. A growl rolled through the trees, low and primal, vibrating through the frozen ground. My breath caught, my body froze. The sound was not distant, It was near, too near. The child clung tighter, his small body trembling against mine. I turned, and he was there. Aldrich stepped from the shadows, his cloak heavy with snow, his eyes gleaming like steel beneath the torchless night. His wolf shadow loomed behind him, vast and terrible, its breath curling in mist, its growl echoing through the silence. He was not king here. He was alpha, predator, storm. My knees weakened, but I forced myself to stand tall, shielding Rin with my body. "Stay back," I whispered, though the words faltered. His gaze locked on mine, sharp, unyielding. "You cannot run from me." My chest tightened, my breath shallow. "You let them cast me out. You let them demand his death. And now you hunt me?" His jaw clenched, his silence heavy. He stepped closer, the snow crunching beneath his boots, his wolf shadow pressing forward like a tide. My pulse raced, my body trembling with fear, and something else, something raw, dangerous, unspoken. "I stayed away," he said at last, his voice low, rough, as though torn from him. "Not because I wished it, because I had to." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "You abandoned me." His eyes darkened, his breath sharp. "I protected you." The words struck, sharp and confusing. My heart stuttered, my mind reeling. Protected me? By silence? By exile? His wolf shadow growled, the sound vibrating through the trees. He stepped closer still, his presence overwhelming, his nearness suffocating. "There is a curse," he said, his voice strained, his control slipping. "The bond awakens it. If I touch you, if I claim you, it will consume you. I stayed away to keep you alive." The forest held its breath. My chest ached, my body trembling. His words cut deeper than betrayal, deeper than silence. He had not abandoned me. He had fought himself, fought the bond, fought the instinct that clawed at him. Yet the truth did not ease the ache, it deepened it. "You let them exile me," I whispered, my voice breaking. "You let them cast me out, alone, with him." I glanced down at Rin, his small face pressed against me, his body trembling. "You let them demand his death." Aldrich's eyes flicked to the child, sharp, unreadable. His jaw tightened, his breath caught. For a heartbeat, his wolf shadow surged, its growl rising, its eyes gleaming with possession. "He is bound to you," Aldrich said, his voice rough. "As I am. The bond chose him as it chose me. That is why he clings to you. That is why the court fears him." My knees weakened, my chest aching. The bond pulsed again, stronger now, as though it reached not only for Aldrich, but for the child pressed against me. Confusion twisted through me, fear clawing at my heart. Aldrich stepped closer, his control slipping, his breath sharp against the cold. His hand lifted, hovering near my cheek, trembling with restraint. He did not touch, yet the nearness burned. "You do not understand what you have done," he whispered, his voice raw. "You bound yourself to me. You bound yourself to the curse. And now I cannot hold it back." My breath faltered, my body trembling. His eyes locked on mine, steel and storm, longing buried beneath control. His wolf shadow pressed closer, its growl low, its breath hot against the snow. I swallowed hard, my voice breaking. "Then what will you do?" His hand trembled, his jaw clenched, his breath sharp. The bond pulsed, stronger, fiercer, unyielding. His control cracked, his instinct clawing free. He leaned close, his breath brushing my lips, his voice breaking against the silence. "Say you are mine," he breathed, "or I will lose myself." The forest held its breath. Snow drifted in slow spirals, settling on the branches above us, muffling the world into silence. His words still hung between us, raw and dangerous. "Say you are mine, or I will lose myself." My chest ached, my breath shallow. Rin slept against my shoulder now, his small body warm despite the cold, his trust a fragile weight I carried. Yet it was Aldrich's presence that pressed hardest against me, his nearness a storm I could no longer outrun. He stood close, too close, his wolf shadow looming behind him, its eyes gleaming with hunger and restraint. His hand hovered near my cheek, trembling, as though the act of touching me was both salvation and ruin. "I am afraid," I whispered, my voice breaking against the night. His breath caught, sharp, as though the words pierced him. "So am I." The admission cracked something inside me. The feared Alpha King, the man whose silence had ruled courts and wolves alike, confessed fear, not of war, not of death, but of me, of the bond that tethered us, of the curse that clawed at him. My hand lifted, hesitant, trembling. My fingertips brushed the edge of his cloak, then the roughness of his sleeve. The contact was fleeting, fragile, yet it jolted through me like fire. His eyes darkened, his breath shuddered, and for the first time, he did not pull away. The bond pulsed, stronger now, steady and unyielding. My heart raced, my body trembling, but I did not retreat. I stepped closer, the snow crunching beneath my boots, until his breath mingled with mine, warm against the cold. "Why do you fight it?" I asked, my voice low, desperate. His jaw tightened, his eyes locked on mine. "Because if I claim you, the curse will bind you. It will mark you as mine, and you will bear its weight." I swallowed hard, my chest aching. "And if you do not?" His silence was answer enough. The bond would consume us both. Fear twisted within me, sharp and suffocating. Yet beneath it, something else stirred, longing, fierce and undeniable. I had been cast out, betrayed, abandoned, yet still, I felt the pull, the ache, the truth. I could not deny it. My hand rose again, trembling, and this time I touched him fully. My fingertips brushed his jaw, rough with stubble, warm against the cold. His breath faltered, his eyes closed, and for a heartbeat, the storm stilled. "Ilara," he whispered, my name breaking from him like a vow. The sound of it unraveled me. My knees weakened, my chest tightened, and tears burned hot against my eyes. I had been overlooked, underestimated, unwanted. Yet here, in the silence of the forest, the Alpha King spoke my name as though it was the only truth he had left. His hand lifted, slow, trembling, and pressed against mine. His fingertips brushed my wrist, my pulse racing beneath his touch. The contact was fragile, restrained, yet it bound us more surely than chains. The bond surged, pulsing through my veins, burning against my skin. I gasped, my body trembling, my breath caught. His eyes opened, steel and storm, and I saw it. The longing he had buried, the fear he had carried, the truth he could no longer deny. "I cannot hold it back," he whispered, his voice raw. "If I mark you, you will bear me. You will bear the curse." And yet, his breath faltered, his hand tightening against mine. "I cannot let you go." My chest ached, my body trembling. "Then do it," I whispered, though fear clawed at me. "Mark me, bind me. I would rather bear you than lose you." His breath shuddered, his eyes closing, his jaw clenched. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then he leaned close, his lips brushing the edge of my temple, his breath hot against my skin. The mark came not as pain, but as fire. His mouth pressed against the hollow of my neck, gentle yet unyielding, and the bond surged, Heat tore through me, burning against my veins, searing into my soul. I gasped, my body trembling, my knees weakening, yet I did not pull away. His hand steadied me, firm against my back, holding me upright as the fire consumed. His breath mingled with mine, his voice breaking against my skin. Mine, he whispered, the word a vow, a claim, a truth. The runes flared, unseen yet felt, their light burning against the night. The wolf shadow howled, its voice echoing through the forest, its eyes gleaming with possession. The bond pulsed, stronger than ever, unbroken, unyielding. My breath came ragged, my body trembling, my heart racing. His lips lingered against my skin, his hands steady against my back, his presence overwhelming. Fear twisted, but trust rose, fragile yet fierce. Longing burned, but acceptance followed, slow and undeniable. I closed my eyes, my body surrendering, my soul answering. The mark burned, and my body answered with a word I had never dared speak. Yes. The forest was hushed, as though the world itself had paused to listen. Snow lay heavy upon the branches, muffling sound, softening the edges of the night. Rin slept curled beside the fire Aldrich had built, his small body wrapped in furs, his breath steady at last. I watched him, my hand resting lightly on his shoulder, the ache of protectiveness still sharp in my chest. He was safe, for now. The bond pulsed faintly, steady as a heartbeat, reminded me of the mark Aldrich had pressed upon my skin. It burned still, not with pain but with presence, a tether that bound me to him, undeniable, unbroken. I touched the place at my neck where his lips had lingered, and my breath faltered. Aldrich sat across from me, his figure carved in shadow, his wolf shadow coiled behind him like smoke. He was silent, as he had always been, but the silence was different now. It was not distance. It was weight, promise, restraint. His eyes, steel and storm, lingered on me, and I felt the pull of them as surely as the bond itself. I swallowed hard, my voice breaking the quiet. You should have told me sooner. His jaw tightened, his gaze flickering to the fire. I feared what it would mean. To claim you is to bind you to the curse. I thought silence would protect you. My chest ached, my breath shallow. And yet silence nearly destroyed me. His eyes lifted, locking on mine. For a heartbeat, the storm within him cracked, and I saw it, the longing, the fear, the truth. I know, he said, his voice low, rough, and I will not let it happen again. The firelight flickered, painting his face in gold and shadow. My heart stuttered, my body trembling with the weight of his words. Promise, not perfection. He could not undo the exile, the betrayal, the pain, but he could vow something else. That silence would no longer stand between us. I shifted closer, my hand brushing the edge of his cloak. His breath caught, sharp, though he did not pull away. The bond pulsed, stronger now, steady and unyielding. My fingertips lingered, trembling, and his hand rose, slow, hesitant, until it covered mine. The contact was fragile, restrained, yet it bound us more surely than any decree. My chest tightened, my breath faltered, and tears burned hot against my eyes. I do not want perfection, I whispered. I want truth. I want you. His jaw clenched, his eyes darkened, and for a heartbeat, the storm surged. Then he leaned closer, his breath brushing my cheek, his voice breaking against the silence. Then you will have me. Whatever comes, whatever the curse demands, I will not let you go. The words unraveled me. My knees weakened, my chest ached, and I closed my eyes, surrendering to the bond, to the vow, to him. His hand tightened against mine, his presence overwhelming, his nearness burning. The fire crackled, the snow fell, and for the first time, the silence between us was not distance, but promise. Rin stirred in his sleep, his small hand reaching blindly, clutching at the fur. My heart ached at the sight, at the innocence, at the bond that had chosen him too. I looked at Aldrich, confusion twisting through me. Why him? His gaze softened, though his voice remained low, steady. Because the bond does not choose only for us. It chooses for the future. He is part of it now, as much as you are, as much as I am. My chest tightened, my breath faltered. The weight of it pressed against me. The child, the curse, the bond, the danger that lingered beyond the forest. The court would not forget. The nobles would not forgive. The world would not yield easily. Yet beneath the fear, something else stirred. Hope, fragile, fierce, undeniable. I turned back to Aldrich, my voice trembling. Then we will face it together. His eyes locked on mine, steel and storm, and for the first time, I saw not only the Alpha King, but the man beneath, the one who had carried silence, who had borne fear, who now chose me. His hand lifted, brushing against my cheek, his fingertips trembling with restraint. You are mine, he whispered, his voice raw, his breath hot against my skin. And I am yours. The bond surged, pulsing through me, burning against my veins. My body trembled, my breath caught, and tears spilled hot against my cheeks. I leaned into his touch, my lips parting, my voice breaking. Yes! The firelight flickered, the snow fell, and the world held its breath. Promise, not perfection. Danger lingered, shadows pressed close, but the vow was unbroken. He leaned closer, his lips brushing the edge of my temple, his breath mingling with mine. His voice was low, tender, fierce. This, he whispered against my skin, is only the beginning. Thank you for listening. Another story will find you soon. With love, Claire.